that hearing. Let's bring Olivia Enos. She is a policy analyst at the Heritage Foundation's Asian Studies Center. Olivia, it's good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with what we were talking about with Michael Cohen in terms of something that was frustrating the White House today, the idea that there was a split screen, if you will, in the coverage. Here he is trying to make peace in Vietnam, peace with North Korea. And much of the Washington Press Corps and others were focused on Michael Cohen.
Yeah, so, we really can't read the president's mind, but we can read the president's itinerary, and he's here in Hanoi. Now we're questioning, what is this actually going to look like? What is a deal moving towards? Are we actually going to sign a deal? And I would really urge caution here. No deal is far better than having a really bad deal. We need to make sure that this summit, if we're going to sign something, actually gives us those tangible deliverables that we're looking for and moves us down the path toward complete verifiable.
So I want to get to those details, but quickly before we move on from Michael Cohen, the criticism from some on the left before this summit was, well, with the testimony coming from Michael Cohen, it might be damaging to the president, and the president might be, in the left's estimation, desperate to cut a deal, any deal, even if it's a bad one, even if it's not full denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. If the president walks away from a weak deal, as you say, does that suggest all of that was a bunch of bunk, and he's focused on the substance here and actually getting a good deal?
I think that negotiations with North Korea are running on an entirely separate track from anything that we're looking at domestically, politically. I think, over the long term, we've been looking to try and make progress on North Korea. This has been a top foreign policy priority for the Trump administration almost since day one. And so I think that the president is genuine and sincere in wanting to reach a deal. I'm just not sure that he's pressing for the right things.
So we mentioned a moment ago with Daniel Hoffman the idea of the example many cite of Ronald Reagan, Reykjavik with Gorbachev, where he walked away from a bad deal, but then sort of won in the end and showed the old line about peace through strength. Could there be a similar situation playing out with President Trump?
I think it's really critical in any negotiation with North Korea that the U.S. be setting the terms for those negotiations. And if President Trump came to Hanoi, fully expecting one thing and getting a totally different one from Kim Jong-un, it would be completely fair to walk away and step away from this, because we're looking for a different future for North Korea. And if Kim Jong-un doesn't see that future or share that vision, I think we have to step away and we have to consider maybe more seriously actually implementing a maximum pressure strategy against North Korea.
So define that for our viewers. Maximum pressure is mentioned a lot. We've talked about all week long the U.S. sanctions already on the books, really damaging the North Korean economy. So what would maximum pressure look like in terms of ratcheting up even more sanctions?
Yeah, we have not yet reached maximum pressure. And one of the primary reasons this is the case is because the U.S. has stopped short of sanctioning Chinese banks who we know are responsible for laundering money for the North Korean regime. And so I think this would be one way to close a loop. But additionally, the U.S. has sanctions in place for a variety of reasons. Nuclear issues, human rights issues, primary money laundering concern issues, all of those need to be highlighted, and frankly, all those issues should be on the table here in Hanoi so we have a more comprehensive strategy toward North Korea.
So given all that you're analyzing there, what do you make of Kim Jong-un and what we were talking about a moment ago, this idea that it appears really for the first time out loud, he had signed the agreement in Singapore that suggested he was for denuclearization, but he hasn't really been on camera, on the record, actually saying, I wouldn't be here unless I was ready to denuclearize. Was that an important statement, or is it just him throwing out rhetoric?
I think it really remains to be seen, because in Singapore, what Kim Jong-un committed to was complete denuclearization, which means denuclearization of the entire Korean Peninsula, which includes U.S. nuclear assets. That's a completely untenable definition, and it's not actually the legally required UN definition of complete, verifiable, irreversible dismantlement. So we were not even sure if actually North Korea and the U.S. are on the same page, and I think we were hoping that this Hanoi summit would deliver on that.
Last question. When you talk about maximum pressure, that's not just economic sanctions. That's military pressure as well, isn't it?
Military pressure. It's also raising those thorny issues, including human rights related concerns that we have about the regime. There are 80,000 to 120,000 individuals in political prison camps today. That was not raised in Singapore. It should be raised here in Hanoi.